She immediately starts fussing over Zhang Yi. Are you tired? Are you thirsty? Would you like something to eat? Zhang Yi temporarily ignores Shokir and asks Zhou Haimei to sit down first. Shokir, with a woman's intuition, feels that something is different about Zhang Yi. I now understand. You prefer mature women, don't you? Zhang Yi smiles faintly. Don't overthink it. This woman is here to take care of Uncle Yu, but you're right about me preferring mature women. Shokir looks stunned. Zhang Yi is more concerned about Uncle Yu's condition. Shokir quickly responds. Uncle Yu has mostly recovered. It's miraculous. Normally, it would take at least 3 months. I also gave him muscle relaxants as you instructed, but it doesn't seem to suppress his strength. Zhang Yi nods, just as I suspected. Uncle Yu has an enhancing type of mutation. How is his mental state now? After pondering for a moment, Shokir says, he seems fine. His mental state appears to be normal. No issues have been discovered. Hearing this, Zhang Yi strokes his chin. I've read online about people experiencing dangerous physical mutations after gaining superpowers. I'm glad Uncle Yu didn't go through that. Zhang Yi then visits Uncle Yu's room and sees that he's fine, which eases his concerns. He also tells Uncle Yu about capturing Wang Siming's shelter the day before. Upon hearing this, Uncle Yu remarks, rich people sure know how to have fun. Zhang Yi calmly responds, there are plenty of wealthy people both domestically and internationally, and many of them would have built shelters. In that sense, it's easier for the rich and powerful to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. Uncle Yu lowers his head. Zhang Yi, how can I ever thank you? I wouldn't be alive now if it wasn't for you. Zhang Yi's eyes flicker slightly. No need for formalities. By the way, Uncle Yu, have you noticed any changes in your body these past few days? Uncle Yu lifts his shirt. It's strange. With such severe gunshot wounds, it should take months to heal, but I've recovered in just a few days, and my strength has increased tremendously. Saying this, he lifts a sofa next to him with one hand. Zhang Yi looks at Uncle Yu with delighted astonishment. What incredible strength. Uncle Yu looks at himself puzzled, feeling like some kind of monster. Zhang Yi reassures him cheerfully. Don't worry too much. You've just awakened a powerful ability. It's like a tadpole successfully transforming into a frog. Uncle Yu stares at Zhang Yi, bewildered. Zhang Yi smiles. Don't be surprised. I've also awakened some abilities. Saying this, he takes out some food from another space. Uncle Yu is completely dumbfounded. No wonder you always seem to have endless resources. Uncle Yu became excited all of a sudden. With a strong push of his hand, he overturned the bed. He then heavily fell to the ground. Zhang Yi advises Uncle Yu to get used to his new body before making any moves. Seeing the condition Uncle Yu is in, Zhang Yi is overjoyed. The stronger Uncle Yu becomes, the safer I'll be. Meanwhile, Shokir and the superstar, Zhou Haimei, are busy in the living room. Zhang Yi gets back to the point. Uncle Yu, I've found you a wife. Are you interested? Uncle Yu glances at Zhou Haimei in the living room and his eyes widen in disbelief. This is every man's dream goddess. Zhou Haimei, am I seeing things? Zhou Haimei approaches and greets Uncle Yu with a smile. Hello, Mr. Yu. Uncle Yu, elated, nods furiously. His dream goddess is actually speaking to him. Zhang Yi looks at both of them. Given the current exceptional circumstances, let's skip the pleasantries. You two should pair up and live together. I'll leave this house to both of you, while Shokir and I will move out. Uncle Yu becomes anxious. Zhang Yi, this won't do. I've received too much from you already. This house is your safety. I can't take it from you. Zhang Yi reassures Uncle Yu. Don't be formal with me. Uncle Yu, I found a better place to stay. You can bring your wife over to visit anytime. After settling Uncle Yu, Zhang Yi and Shokir head downstairs to go to their new home. Finally, a wedding gift for you. Saying this, he takes out a snowmobile from another space. Uncle Yu is astonished. This is your vital means of transportation. How can I take this from you? What will you do without the snowmobile? He absolutely refuses to accept it. Zhang Yi says, don't be formal, Uncle Yu. I can manage without the snowmobile. Saying this, he takes out an off-road snow vehicle from another space. Everyone is left speechless. Is this what Zhang Yi means by managing? Meanwhile, in Su family town, there's widespread anxiety. Everyone is waiting for the village's star of hope, Chun-Lei, to make a decision. Chun-Lei thinks he's the chosen one, destined for greatness. This must be a sign from the heavens to make me stronger. The village head expresses his concern. That guy is too strong. We can't beat him. Chun-Lei, you are our village's hope. The whole of Su family town is relying on you. Please don't disappoint us. Chun-Lei gets carried away. Don't worry, village head, Uncle 3, I've got this. At this moment, Zhang Yi and Shokir are driving towards their new villa in the off-road vehicle. Shokir curiously asks, what's the new house like? Knowing you, I can't imagine you would just give away a secure house that you put so much effort into, and you even found a beautiful wife for Uncle Yu. Zhang Yi smiles. Our new home is huge, many times more comfortable than where we live now. But be prepared, there is one more person in our new home now. Upon hearing this, Shokir gets nervous. Is it another woman? Zhang Yi, have you changed your feelings for me? Zhang Yi pats her hand. Don't overthink it. I'm just worried you might be too busy, so I found someone to help share the load with you. Shokir finally relaxes, snuggling close to Zhang Yi. I knew you loved me the most. Zhang Yi smiles at Shokir. Well, what's done is done. It was consensual, so just be obedient and everything will be fine. Zhang Yi revs up the engine, driving forward through increasing snow and wind, even more intense than when the snowstorm first started. Suddenly, a whirlwind strikes the rear of the off-road vehicle. Zhang Yi quickly realizes something is wrong. This snow is too unnatural. Then a loud bang as a gust of wind hits the vehicle, causing it to veer off track. Gripping the wheel tightly, Zhang Yi floors the gas pedal. Hold on tight, he tells Shokir, extending his left hand. He opens a different space with a whoosh, sucking in the attacking snowstorm. Damn, it's a tornado. Heavenly Sea City hasn't seen a tornado in centuries. This is definitely an attack, not a natural disaster. Zhang Yi immediately calms down. His ability is ultimate defense. As long as he doesn't panic, the opponent won't be able to kill him. He begins to think, realizing that the attacker must be nearby. He skillfully turns the vehicle around and once again opens a different space, sucking in the attacking tornado. Meanwhile, Chun-Lei in the shadows realizes something is wrong. The tornado had hit the vehicle. Why did it suddenly stop? The tornado drains a lot of his energy, and he is not sure how strong the other party is. The more Chun-Lei thinks, the more he believes this guy is not easy to deal with. He might have superpowers too. Worst of all, he's already shown his trump card, but no knows nothing about the other person. Two villagers by his side sense that something is off. Chun-Lei, what's going on? Why didn't your superpower work this time? Chun-Lei replies, damn, we've run into a tough one. We need to find another way. Let's retreat for now. At this moment, Zhang Yi in the vehicle is ready for action. He takes a sniper rifle with a high magnification scope out of a different space. You think you can attack me and run? Watch how I take you down. Lifting the sniper rifle, he aims and fires 2 shots. One of the villagers falls to the ground. Chun-Lei and the other villager are instantly dumbfounded. This guy has a sniper rifle, and he could hit from such a long distance. This defies all logic. Zhang Yi raises the sniper rifle again, and Chun-Lei hides behind a snow mountain in fear. Zhang Yi smiles. Since you're hiding, let me return the gift you just gave me. With that, he raises his left hand and releases the absorbed tornado back out. Chun-Lei sees a tornado that looks exactly like his own superpower and is dumbstruck. Damn, this kid has the same superpower as mine. Just as he's about to be swept up by the tornado, Chun-Lei musters the last of his strength and releases his superpower again. The 2 tornadoes collide and cancel each other out. Chun-Lei takes this opportunity to escape. Zhang Yi watches the retreating figures and decides to let them go for now. I can't chase them into the villagers' territory, especially with Zhou Care in the car. A small mistake could be disastrous. If you want revenge, come find me. But next time, it will be on my home turf. Zhang Yi doesn't linger. He continues driving towards Lark Manor. Meanwhile, he feels that he learned a lot from this battle. The future world is likely to be dominated by people with superpowers. Zhou Care, concerned, asks if those who weren't killed would come back for revenge. Zhang Yi assures her, don't worry, our new refuge is very secure. Even if a superpower like a tornado were to bury it, it won't affect our lives. Elsewhere, Su Depan and others are helping the injured walk towards Su family town. Ever since my superpower awakened, I've been the one doing the beating. This is the first time someone's chased and attacked me. I almost lost my life. At that moment, Yang Mi, dressed in sexy lingerie, is lying on the bed. She's not used to suddenly being kept like a canary and is wondering how to pass the time when the door clicks open. Zhang Yi walks in and says, get up, I want to introduce you to a friend. Yang Mi is startled. Is he planning to pass me on to someone else? Zhang Yi laughs at her reaction. In the order of who came first, you should call her sister. Yang Mi looks surprised again. So, is she your girlfriend? She nervously asks. Zhang Yi hands her some clothes. Close enough. Yang Mi starts to think, me, an international A-list star, sharing a man with another woman? I can't lose to a village girl. She applies beautiful makeup to herself. I may lose in other ways, but not in poise. Watch how I trample you underfoot. Meanwhile, Zhou Care also meticulously prepares herself. A woman's charm is the best weapon. The competition has just begun. After a long time of meticulous preparation, Yang Mi finally arrives in the living room. However, the moment the 2 women lock eyes, both are shocked and dismayed. It's you. At this moment, Zhang Yi stands in the middle, puzzled. Do you two know each other? Zhou Care angrily tells Zhang Yi, this person is my cousin, but the relationship between the 2 women appears strained. Yang Mi pulls Zhang Yi aside and whispers, Zhang Yi, please, whatever you do, don't let Zhou Care know about us. Zhang Yi scratches his chin and smiles. Us? What about us? Yang Mi is instantly infuriated. The transaction between us. Zhang Yi finds himself in an increasingly interesting situation as he looks at a furious Zhou Care and a cautious Yang Mi. As it turns out, both the Zhou and Yang families are renowned for their scholarly traditions, boasting numerous talented individuals. Yang Mi chose the entertainment industry to become famous, willing to be an actress. Zhou Care looks at Yang Mi disdainfully. If you were truly talented, you would rise through your own works. No one in the family would have such strong reservations. Don't you know why you're famous? People in the upper circles mock our family because everyone knows you're like a public bus. The shame it brings is nauseating just to hear, let alone see you. Zhang Yi finds Yang Mi's expression behind him somewhat amusing. He waves his hand dismissively. I don't care about your past grievances. There are no more distinguished families or top celebrities here. You are now simply neighbors in adversity. The 2 women reluctantly shake hands, agreeing to live and let live. Then Zhang Yi takes them to the underground garden filled with lush vegetables and plants. He tells them, your daily tasks, besides household chores, are to take good care of these plants to secure our logistics. Both nod happily, glad to have something to do to avoid idleness and potential conflict under the same roof. Afterwards, Zhang Yi sends Zhou Care upstairs to tidy up the bedroom, leaving a grateful Yang Mi behind. She says, thank you for keeping our secret just now. I already owe my cousin so much. If she finds out that I'm competing with her for a boyfriend, she'll be heartbroken. So could we keep our relationship a secret from her going forward? Zhang Yi has other plans in mind. With only 3 people in such a large shelter, staying hidden would be no easy feat. Zhang Yi quickly agrees to Yang Mi's request. To show her gratitude for keeping their secret, Yang Mi offers to cook for Zhang Yi. He's somewhat taken aback. A big star knows how to cook? Yang Mi heads to the kitchen. Don't assume all celebrities are useless. Actually, I find cooking relaxing when I'm bored. However, to her dismay, she finds the kitchen devoid of ingredients. It's the proverbial case of no rice to cook even for a clever woman. Yang Mi searches fruitlessly, finding nothing. Watching Yang Mi pace back and forth, Zhang Yi can't help but admire her figure. He walks up behind her and exhales lightly. Yang Mi stands up nervously and dodges back, glancing worriedly upstairs. Her face turns red as she asks, what are you doing? Didn't we agree not to act like this? What if our relationship gets discovered? Zhang Yi smiles. I can't help it. You're too captivating. He then produces a heap of ingredients from another space and places them on the table. Yang Mi's eyes widen in amazement. Oh my god, how do you have so much stuff? I can't believe my eyes. Food is so abundant even in this apocalyptic winter. It feels a bit too luxurious. Zhang Yi playfully pats Yang Mi's hips. No worries. We'll eat like this from now on. After some cooking, Yang Mi calls Zhang Yi and Zhou Care to eat. Zhang Yi looks at the spread before him with great satisfaction, while Yang Mi and Zhou Care each have their own thoughts. Zhou Care tastes the base and immediately frowns in disdain. Too much salt. How can anyone eat this? Yang Mi eats her rice, her head down, feeling somewhat guilty. After all, under such circumstances, it's not easy to get the seasoning right. Zhang Yi watches all this unfold, smiling internally. He's purposely fueling a rivalry rivalry between the two women to ultimately benefit himself. He quickly picks up a dish with his chopsticks and feeds it to Zhou Kir. This one is less salty. Feeling pleased, Zhou Kir eats it and immediately starts to act lovey-dovey. Food always tastes better when Brother Yi feeds it to me. Yang Mi, sitting off to the side, watches the pair's performance with a heavy heart. That night, Zhou Kir nervously asks Zhang Yi, who's better, Yang Mi or me? She saw what happened in the kitchen earlier that day. Using his player-like acting skills, Zhang Yi reassures her, don't think too much, baby. You're the one I love the most. Upon hearing this, the innocent Zhou Kir immediately hugs Zhang Yi tightly. I knew it. Brother Yi loves Zhou Kir the most. Zhang Yi thinks to himself, you really are naive. Although he appears passionately devoted to Zhou Kir, he's never truly been in love with her. Being with her simply satisfies his basic needs as a man. Love, to him, is just a disease that makes people lose their reason. For the past few days, Zhang Yi has been leisurely practicing shooting at Lark Manor. Suddenly, his phone rings. As he's about to answer, he realizes it's not a voice call, but a regular phone dialing. Considering all electrical grids have been down since the apocalypse, and virtually everyone he knew is gone, he's curious about this unknown number. Even if you're a god, I can't be bothered, he mutters, promptly hanging up and blocking the number. Oddly enough, within 2 minutes, the same number calls again. This time, Zhang Yi is unnerved. What's going on? I blocked this number. How could it call again? Thinking maybe he didn't block it properly, he blocks it again. Right on cue, the phone rings once more. This time, Zhang Yi is genuinely panicked. What the hell is happening? Is this some sort of haunting? Just as he's freaking out, the call answers itself. The voice on the other end starts questioning Zhang Yi. Why aren't you answering my calls? Although Zhang Yi is panicking internally, he tells himself to stay calm. This person on the other end of the phone is no small fry compared to the riffraff he's encountered before. The voice on the other end begins to recite detailed personal information about Zhang Yi, from his birth date and family address to his current residence at Lark Manor, and even his previous workplace. At this point, Zhang Yi can't hold it in any longer. Who are you, and how do you know so much about me? The man on the other end, fat bro, chuckles. Don't worry, just give me the supplies you have, and I won't expose your information. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi bursts into laughter. Did you take the wrong medication? You think you can blackmail me for supplies based on this information? Go ahead and expose it. I couldn't care less. Fat bro continues. What if people find out you have the supplies that went missing from the South City warehouse? What then? Gritting his teeth, Zhang Yi starts to play dumb. So you say I have them and that makes it true? Who would believe you? Besides, I'm just a small-time supervisor. How could I possibly be connected to the theft at the South City warehouse? Fat bro calmly replies. Don't try to play games with me. I might as well tell you. I'm Lu Fengda from Intelligent Cloud Group. Hearing this name, Zhang Yi freezes. Lu Fengda is a top dog in the domestic information field. The fact that he's caught the attention of someone like Lu Fengda makes it crystal clear that hacking his phone would be child's play for him. Suddenly, a thought strikes Zhang Yi. If this guy can hack into his phone so easily, what about the computer systems at home? Has he hacked into them as well? But then he reassures himself that the probability is low. Like him, Lu Fengda is also trapped in Lark Manor, which would limit him to basic operations like hacking a phone. If he had indeed compromised the computer systems at home, he wouldn't need to call and threaten Zhang Yi over the phone. Thinking quickly, Zhang Yi decides to play it cool with Lu Fengda. Lu Fengda then boldly states, since you can support 2 women, you should have no problem supporting me as well. As long as you provide me with the supplies I need to live, I will keep your secret safe. Additionally, I can help you maintain your cybersecurity to protect against other hackers. Smiling, Zhang Yi responds, Mr. Lu, you must be joking. I did work as a warehouse supervisor for a while, but a minor supervisor like me doesn't have much authority. Lu Fengda immediately fires back. Zhang Yi, don't try to outsmart me. I've been around long enough and seen enough to know that you must have those stolen supplies from the warehouse. I can gather a lot of information about you through your phone. Fuming internally, Zhang Yi thinks, this damn old man, I must find a way to take him down. Realizing he can't hide the truth anymore, he admits, I do have some supplies, but not many. As you know, my living space is limited. I've already packed and sold the excess supplies. Lu Fengda doesn't care about the amount, he just wants his needs met. If Zhang Yi doesn't agree, he threatens to leak the information and have people with special abilities target him, the consequences of which are obvious. Rubbing his forehead, Zhang Yi realizes he's up against a tough adversary this time. Regardless, he's made up his mind to deal with Lu Fengda once and for all. Verbally agreeing, he says, I can provide you with some supplies, but you have to keep the secret. Upon hearing this, Lu Fengda happily replies, don't worry, I'm not foolish. Only you and I need to know about this. Right now, I need things like food, liquor, cotton socks, and underwear. Have them sent to Villa 302 in Lark Manor. And don't try any tricks. If I'm not pleased, I'll leak the information and you'll be in big trouble. After hanging up, Zhang Yi already has a plan in mind. This Lu Fengda must die. He walks into the living room where Zhou Kir is sitting on the couch. Taking a big gulp of water, he says, Zhou Kir, I have something to discuss with you. As Zhou Kir leans in, Zhang Yi explains that their location has been discovered. He briefly fills her in on Lu Fengda's actions, mentioning how Lu Fengda knows that he has a large amount of supplies and is therefore trying to blackmail him. After hearing everything, Zhou Kir also feels that the situation is complicated. She thinks for a moment and says, I have indeed come across such people. They may not be as cunning as one might think, but they're certainly highly intelligent. Their moral standards, however, are quite low. Otherwise, they couldn't be real businessmen. Zhang Yi is a bit at a loss for what to do. He really wants to kill this guy. However, he was worried that this bastard might have a backup plan, making him hesitant to act. The idea of being continuously blackmailed if he let him live was something Zhang Yi couldn't bear. Zhou Kir nods. If this information leaks, it will definitely pose a threat to you. This makes things tricky. She recalls cases she has heard of where corrupt officials had internet moguls killed to eliminate evidence, only for the evidence to be released online the next day. Zhang Yi has heard similar stories. These desperados always have a contingency plan. They set up a trigger to automatically leak insider information if something happens to them. That's why their opponents hesitate to make a move. Zhou Kir, concerned, throws herself onto Zhang Yi, saying, "Oh well, if we can't think of a good solution right now, let's not think about it. Let me help you relax." But Zhang Yi is in no mood to think about anything else. As long as this issue is unresolved, he will be uneasy. The longer the issue drags on, the more disadvantageous it becomes for them. Just then, Yang Mi walks in. Zhang Yi thinks it's the perfect time for everyone to sit down and discuss a strategy. After listening to the whole story, Yang Mi frowns. This is indeed a headache. This is what we call creating rumors is easy, but debunking them is hard. We in the entertainment industry utterly despise such behavior. Suddenly, Zhang Yi becomes excited. "You just mentioned rumors, right?" Yang Mi looks puzzled. "Yes, isn't spreading information about you similar to the unethical media spreading rumors about celebrities?" Sitting aside, Zhou Qi dismissively says, "At times like this, even if it's a rumor, people will most likely choose to believe Lu Fengda." Zhang Yi, supporting his chin with both hands, thinks quickly. Although Lu Fengda holds information on me, it's not conclusive evidence. But if this information gets out, it will certainly cause me a lot of trouble. Since I can't stop him from releasing the information, why not muddy the waters? Let's treat this situation as if it's a rumor. Zhou Qi and Yang Mi look curiously at Zhang Yi and ask in unison, "What are you planning to do?" Zhang Yi gives a mysterious smile and turns to make preparations. He heads to the control room and calls Lu Fengda. "Is your stuff ready?" Zhang Yi asks impatiently, "What's the rush? Do you really think I have a lot of supplies? If you didn't have something on me, I'd really want to kill you." On the other end of the phone, Lu Fengda bursts into laughter. "You want to kill me? You're too green for that. If something happens to me, your secret will automatically be sent to every person's phone in Heavenly Sea City. You better weigh the consequences." At this moment, Zhang Yi's brain works at top speed, and he comes up with an idea. "Fine, you win. Wait there, I'll bring the stuff over." He hangs up the phone, a faint smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. He turns on his computer and posts multiple threads on the few remaining forums in Heavenly Sea City. The mystery of the Walmart warehouse theft. Did Walmart steal from itself? Was the stock moved back to the country? Where did Walmart's billions of dollars of supplies go? According to eyewitnesses, armed forces appeared that night. Highly confidential escort. Police are mum on the issue, and various other sensational news. The best way to bury the truth is to bury it among lies. The end result is that nobody can tell what's real and what's not. In this way, even if Lu Fengda tells the actual truth, naturally, no one will believe him. Up to this point, Zhang Yi has employed every means he could think of. Whether it will be successful or not now depends on luck. But one thing is clear, Lu Fengda must die. Following Lu Fengda's instructions, Zhang Yi places the prepared supplies at Lu Fengda's residence. After completing these tasks, he slowly leaves the villa and takes cover behind a pine tree. He aims his sniper rifle at the backpack left at the front door. As soon as Lu Fengda comes out to take the backpack, he plans to shoot him dead. Having set everything up, he sends a text message to Lu Fengda. "The stuff is at your door." Then he intently watches the entrance, silently waiting in the shadows for Lu Fengda to appear. However, time passes and there is no movement at Lu Fengda's front door. Zhang Yi senses that something is off. Did the old man not get his message? He reaches for his phone, intending to make a call, but then he hesitates. If he calls or texts again now, it would suggest that he knows Lu Fengda hasn't picked up the package. Doing so would surely make Lu Fengda suspicious that he is nearby. Zhang Yi takes a slow breath. "I'll wait a little longer. This old fox wanted supplies from me despite the risks. He will come out." Zhang Yi maintains his position, never taking his eye off the bag, silently waiting for the fish to take the bait. Time ticks away. About 15 minutes later, the door to Villa 302 is slowly pushed open. The barrel of a shotgun appears first, scanning the area for threats. Only then does a small old man cautiously step out. At that moment, Lu Fengda is jubilant, thinking he has finally gotten some supplies, and that his elaborate planning hasn't been in vain. Just as he's about to pick up the backpack, there's a loud gunshot. Lu Fengda's head is pierced by a bullet, creating a large hole. He crashes against the door and falls to the ground, dead. Seeing his shot hit the mark, Zhang Yi quickly rushes over to Villa 302. Upon reaching Lu Fengda, he takes aim at his forehead and fires several more rounds. "You old bastard, thinking you can play me? Looks like you've grown tired of living." After that, Zhang Yi locates Lu Fengda's computer. Just as he's about to smash it with his gun, he hesitates. The old man's computer must contain a wealth of valuable information. With a sudden idea, he decides to store the computer in an alternate dimension, effectively preventing any information from being sent out. Sighing deeply, Zhang Yi thinks, "Well, this is the best I can do. The man's dead. The stuff is taken. If he had family, I'd send them to join him in the afterlife. All this nonsense over with. I'd rather go home and spend time with my two ladies and continue to be an internet troll, creating false narratives online." Even if information leaks out, Zhang Yi is prepared to brazenly lie and frame others. His goal is to clear his own name by any means necessary. Stretching, he leaves the control room. Zhou Qi asks with concern, "Zhang Yi, what have you been busy with?" "I've made you a soup with oxtail and kidney. Come have some." Once seated, both women surround him. "Are you tired? Let me give you a back massage," they offer. Zhang Yi feels truly content having two women at home, and he hopes this happy life will continue indefinitely. Casually, Zhang Yi asks, "Did either of you receive any messages on your phones?" Zhou Qi looks puzzled. "A bunch of jumbled messages. I don't know what they mean." Yang Mi also finds the messages to be somewhat confusing and perhaps intentionally misleading. Taking a sip of his fish soup, Zhang Yi says, "They are meant to be misleading. I release those as smoke screens. Starting now, hundreds of similar messages will be sent out to every forum in Heavenly Sea City and to everyone's phones." Since he couldn't stop Lu Fengda from sending out the real information, his alternative is to cover up the truth with lies. Zhou Qi looks doubtful, but wouldn't this raise more suspicion? Yang Mi also thinks that suddenly blowing up this topic would easily draw people's attention. Eating a fishball, Zhang Yi looks calm as he speaks. "Drawing attention is inevitable. Whether or not I send these messages, Lu Fengda certainly would have. So, by sending out these smoke screens, I can at least muddle the waters. Most people don't have the time or interest to discern truth from fiction. They just want to spectate." Yang Mi's eyes light up. She looks at Zhang Yi and says, "You're really clever." She gazes at him with admiration, thinking that her judgment was spot on. Zhang Yi is not just handsome, but also intelligent. At that moment, Zhou Qi looks at her phone and questions. But these messages were sent from your computer. What if someone tracks the IP address? Won't they find out it's you? She's right. Zhang Yi may have used multiple accounts to send the messages, but his IP address is unique. Certain organizations could easily trace it back to him, making him the prime suspect. Without betraying any emotion, Zhang Yi continues to sip his soup. Zhou Qiu senses the shift in atmosphere and hastily apologizes, thinking she might be overly concerned. She speculates that not many people left in Heavenly Sea City would have the expertise to counter-investigate. Your approach is still very effective, she quickly adds. Picking up some food with his chopsticks, Zhang Yi says cryptically, unless this snow disaster plunges the world back into the Stone Age, covering my tracks entirely is nearly impossible. I never harbored illusions about fooling everyone completely, but by doing this, I can at least prevent most people from suspecting me directly. Encountering organizations with strong cyber capabilities is inevitable in the future, and I've been prepared for that. If it weren't for Lu Fengda's appearance, this day would have come much later. However, this shelter cost a whopping $1 billion and is reputedly nuclear strike resistant. Given that Zhang Yi had an endless supply of food, he would only truly worry if confronted by top-tier armed forces. I smiled and glanced at Yang Mi. Don't be too complacent. Even though I'm confident about the shelter's defenses, you won't be idle in the coming days. Upon hearing this, Yang Mi's face turned a shade of red. Her shy eyes seemed to suggest there are others present. It's not appropriate to do such things in front of them. I was utterly speechless, wondering what she was constantly thinking about. But Yang Mi appeared innocent, given that she had been here for quite some time and hadn't really been much of a help in other aspects. I gave her a playful smack on the head and said, I'm talking about setting traps. Holding her head with a look of innocence, Yang Mi replied, we don't know how to set traps. I stood up and spread my hands. While this house boasts top-notch defenses, it seems to lack countermeasures against human threats. We are seriously lacking in defensive weapons inside the shelter. So, I plan to lay a tight network of traps around the shelter. If anyone dares to target me, they'll find it a one-way trip. Upon hearing this, both women seemed instantly invigorated. Ever since Yang Mi's arrival, Zhou Qiu had also gradually become more security conscious. They both eagerly nodded, competing to assure, whatever it takes to keep you safe, we will do it. Yang Mi added, I might not understand traps, but I'll do my best. Nodding, I stood and took out a large pile of hardware from another dimension. Most of it consisted of items like steel nails and animal traps. I picked up a steel nail and began to instruct them on its usage, reminding them to remember the trap's layout. Zhou Qiu and Yang Mi realized the looming danger and were particularly attentive during the lessons. Just scattering nails on snow won't pierce anyone, I explained, taking out a wooden board and nailing a spike onto it. This way, it'll puncture the foot, but steel nails are too smooth. They can be easily pulled out. I then produced a box of screws. If combined with these screw threads, they'll be much harder to remove, inflicting more damage. We need at least 1,000 of these spike traps around the villa, leaving no blind spots. I then picked up an animal trap. This is a great tool. In this weather, if someone gets caught in this, they're basically done for. I meticulously explained to them the techniques for trap placement and how to maximize the trap's damage potential. Following my instructions, the two women immediately got to work, creating a large number of spike board traps with gusto. I wasn't idle either. Standing by the window, I familiarized myself with the terrain surrounding us. There were 2 essential routes leading to our villa. At this moment, I remembered the 2 landmines I had retrieved from the weapons storage, which could be placed perfectly at those 2 access points. Such detonation landmines could instantly obliterate tanks and armored vehicles. If a person were to trigger them, they'd be reduced to mere fragments. I mentally noted that I would have to be careful and avoid these mines when stepping out in the future. However, these spike board traps are only effective once and can easily be figured out by an adversary. I needed a way to ensure that anyone who approaches doesn't leave unscathed. In no time, a large number of spike boards were ready. Yang Mi's hands had blisters from the effort, yet she didn't complain. She understood that her skills couldn't compare to Zhou Qiu, a doctor, and wanted to prove her worth. I appreciated her efforts. We then moved outdoors, and I personally demonstrated how to set up the traps, emphasizing the importance of placement depth. With the ongoing snowfall, the traps couldn't be buried too deep or too shallow. I then proceeded to the vital pathways, dug a deep pit with a military shovel, and carefully placed a landmine inside, covering it with accumulated snow. With a little more snowfall, traces of the trap would be virtually invisible. The next step was to counter any devices or tools the enemy might use to clear out the traps. I had a brilliant idea, connecting the pins of hand grenades with steel wires and placing them beneath the snow. If anyone tripped over it, the steel wire would trigger a chain explosion. This should serve as a significant deterrent. Unless the enemy is a well-trained military unit, approaching the shelter would be a daunting task. Even if someone managed to get past the exterior traps, there's still a defense corridor of over 10 meters inside the shelter, boosting my confidence. Additionally, I had an ace up my sleeve, my spatial ability. After returning indoors, Yang Mi seemed eager and excitedly asked, Zhang Yi, when will the enemies come? I looked at her, dumbfounded. I'd prefer if these traps were just for show, but from your enthusiasm, it seems like you're actually hoping for someone to attack us. But I don't think they'll come anytime soon. After all, it's been so long since the apocalypse started. If anyone can stay in their own territory and survive, that's already an achievement. Unless it's absolutely necessary, no one would attack others. After all, anyone who's managed to survive until now isn't simple. Yang Mi rested her chin in her hand, seeming conflicted. She wasn't sure if she hoped for someone to fall into her traps or if she wanted the safety of their current environment to continue. Lost in thought, she was suddenly jolted out of her reverie by a shrill noise. Turning, she saw Zhang Yi using a welder to install bolts on a door in the corridor. Curious, she approached him. What are you doing? Aren't these thick metal doors secure enough? The recent incident with Lu Fengda had made Zhang Yi more cautious. As he worked, he explained, all the facilities in this villa are controlled by computers. If someone hacks our system, they can easily open these doors. So, to be completely safe, I'm adding these bolts. Finishing his work, Zhang Yi stated seriously, even if someone breaches the corridor, they won't get through these doors quickly. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Zhang Yi looked at the meticulous Zhang Yi with admiration. Even if his methods seemed a bit over the top, she believed that he would undoubtedly outlive most. Zhang Yi, now reassured by their fortified setup, had only one lingering concern: cybersecurity. He muttered, "If only we had a cyber expert with us, we'd be entirely secure." Upon hearing this, a sorrowful expression crossed Zhang Yi's face. Yang Xinqin was pretty skilled in that area. It's a shame. Before Zhang Yi could finish, Zhou Qir interrupted. "You know Yang Xinqin? Is she still alive?" Yang Xinqin had always been frail, her legs paralyzed due to childhood polio. However, her mind was brilliant, especially when it came to computers. By 16, she had swept international computer awards and was considered a top hacker. As Zhang Yi listened to Zhou Qir's account, he couldn't help but feel wistful. If they could find Yang Xinqin, everything would fall into place. Yang Mi shook her head. "I lost contact with Yang Xinqin a long time ago, especially after the snow disaster. I fear the worst." Teasingly, Zhang Yi remarked, "Maybe she just didn't want to deal with you. After all, apart from being pretty, you don't offer much. In the eyes of geniuses like her, who would seek your help in a crisis?" Yang Mi, bewildered, playfully punched Zhang Yi in the chest, exclaiming, "Zhang Yi, you're terrible." Zhang Yi felt a tinge of regret. If this Yang Xinqin were still alive and could join their group, or more precisely, his harem group, it would be an excellent choice. Given the good looks of the two sisters, the younger sibling would likely be just as beautiful. Now, all that was left to do was wait. The mysterious West Mountain base has finally surfaced. They found out that I possess a massive amount of materials. Consequently, I've been targeted by this powerful underground force. After dealing with Lu Fengda, he predictably set up a program in advance. He sent a text message to everyone in Heavenly Sea City. My smoke bomb successfully drowned out this message. Not even a ripple was stirred. Moreover, the content of Lu Fengda's text message merely revealed my identity and address, as well as the possibility of possessing stolen goods from the Walmart warehouse, and in huge quantities. Huge quantities doesn't mean all of it. Such ambiguous expression lacks a clear quantitative standard. After all, how could he know about spatial abilities? And I've sent hundreds of fabricated messages. It's very hard for ordinary people to discern which is true. If someone does manage to find me, they won't be just any ragtag group, or they might have top computer experts. I continue practicing with my bow and arrow. After nearly half a month of relentless training, I seem to have expanded my spatial ability, developing some unique powers. This ability can attach to weapons and projectiles, enhancing their power and accuracy. With the aid of this ability, I can hit a target 400 meters away with a single arrow. Then, I had an idea. What if I apply this ability to close combat weapons, or even to my body? The results were surprisingly good. With the ability enveloping my body, the air resistance I faced greatly reduced. My speed increased manifold. With greater speed, my dodging ability also improved, making escapes much quicker. I've grown to like the abilities I possess. Though they seem simple, they have infinite developmental potential. I can even feel that I've only scratched the surface of an iceberg. I can't imagine how powerful it would be if fully developed. Suddenly, my stomach growled. I quickly took out 2 chocolate bars and stuffed them into my mouth. It seems this ability does consume a lot. After all, power comes from cells. To maintain strength, I must replenish with food. That means the strength of a mutant depends on the amount of food they have. No matter how powerful the opponent's abilities, without food, they can't use them. Thinking of the inexhaustible supplies in my own space, in that case, am I not invincible? At least, I can wear them down with unlimited supplies. Meanwhile, in an underground shelter, Chen Xinyan, the leader of the West Mountain Organization, is worried about the base's energy problems. Just then, the Secretary Garo enters with a stack of documents, slowly saying, "The information we received earlier has been investigated. All messages come from Heron's River District, Lark Manor, mostly from Villa 101 in Lark Manor. However, one message is special. It came from the mobile phone of Lu Fengda, chairman of the Intelligent Cloud Group. His home is in Lark Manor, Villa 302. Chen Xinyan takes the report and ponders for a moment. "Give me a detailed report on Zhang Yi mentioned in the report. I want to know what a mere warehouse manager can stir up." Secretary Garo meticulously reports Zhang Yi's information to Chen Xinyan. Upon learning that he's just a small warehouse manager, Chen Xinyan's expression immediately becomes uninterested. Just a petty thief. Most likely, he's been embezzling using his position. He's probably hoarded a lot of stolen goods until now. Even if this matter is somewhat related to him, the goods in his possession can't be that much. This guy definitely isn't the mastermind behind the warehouse theft case. Garo immediately started flattering. The leader is absolutely right. How could such a small fry have such capabilities? Chen Xinyan smiled slightly, showing a look of seeing through everything. This must be a foreign conspiracy. They must have received intelligence in advance, and thus withdrew the materials beforehand. Later, unable to justify themselves, they staged these self-directed dramas. Garo continued to butter up. The leader's judgment is indeed brilliant. How could these little tricks ever deceive the leader's legal eye? So, should I look into this Zhang Yi? Chen Xinyan pondered for a moment. We haven't searched the Heron's River District area yet. Send a few people to take a look. Maybe we'll find clues about that batch of materials. After his last battle with me, his abilities were questioned by the villagers. Chun Lei himself was deeply affected. He thought he was the chosen one in the script, possessing top-level abilities, then opening a harem and reaching the pinnacle of life. But he never imagined he would be so vulnerable. The sensitive Chun Lei became increasingly decadent, rewarding himself 5 or 6 times a day, and whining about the world with his phone in hand. One day, browsing his phone out of boredom, the sudden influx of fake messages he received days ago seemed unusual to him. He vaguely felt this might be related to the mysterious person who scared him that day. As an otaku, Chun Lei had some tricks up his sleeve regarding computers. He quickly spotted something fishy in the messages. The IP information source caught his attention. Zhang Yi, warehouse manager, Walmart's South warehouse theft case. This was the biggest news just before the apocalypse. Chun Lei always thought it was a self-directed farce, but now it seems it wasn't unfounded. Did he really empty the Walmart warehouse all by himself? Chun Lei suddenly became excited. The imaginations of otaku are naturally wild, and being a mutant himself, everything became understandable. This man named Zhang Yi might have awakened a spatial domain ability, like a vacuum cleaner with infinite capacity, capable of taking in a large amount of objects. The ice and snow he controlled disappeared in front of him that day, but later the ice and snow were released again. It wasn't as simple as a rebound attack. It was like my attack was taken into another space, then released in the opposite direction. At this moment, Chun-Li had a realization. He must be a spatial mutant. The stolen goods from the Walmart warehouse must be in his alternate space. No wonder he owned a luxurious snowmobile rarely seen in the South. Thinking of this, Chun-Li felt a huge blow. He actually possesses spatial abilities. How enviable compared to his. My abilities are several levels inferior. Is he the real protagonist? Am I just a weak antagonist? Will I become his experience bag? Chun-Li's mood took a great hit. After all, compared to such rare abilities, his ice and snow powers seemed too effeminate, and his abilities were completely countered by Zhang Yi's. It seems he really was just a small fry, destined to become Zhang Yi's experience bag. Chun-Li also realized the gap between his strength and Zhang Yi's. At that moment, an idea came to him. Since he couldn't defeat Zhang Yi, he decided to join him. That way, he could still be a secondary character. Thinking this, Chun-Li sprang up from his bed. I need to warn the villagers first. Don't provoke him. After all, there are too many fearless fools in the village. Chun-Li jogged all the way to the village chief Su Dongsheng's house. Breathlessly, he shouted urgently, "Third Grandpa, there's trouble. I have something very important to report to you." In the past, the village chief hardly bothered with a waste like Chun-Li. But now, since he awakened his ice and snow abilities, becoming the strongest fighter in the village, the chief had to give him some respect. Chun-Li immediately shared all the information he had with the chief. "We are no match for Zhang Yi. Lark Manor is too close to us. I suggest telling the villagers to stay away from there and better not to fish around that area either." However, the village chief seemed indifferent to these warnings, more intrigued by one piece of news. He looked at Chun-Li with wise eyes. "Are you saying the notorious Walmart warehouse theft case before the apocalypse was done by that guy, and all those billions worth of goods are in his hands?" Chun-Li nodded repeatedly. "It's very likely. He might have awakened a spatial ability and sneakily put all the goods into his alternate space." Hearing this, Su Dongsheng's eyes lit up. Muttering to himself, he said, "If we could seize those goods, our Su family town would never have to worry about food again." Chun-Li was shocked. We really shouldn't be eyeing his goods. But Su Dongsheng looked disdainful. "You're too cowardly. Our village has thousands of people. Are we really afraid of one young boy?" Chun-Li was speechless for a moment. The chief continued thoughtfully, "You coward, afraid of death. When I was young, fighting with neighboring villages over water and land, didn't we always end up bloodied? Now, in these do-or-die times, for our Su family town, even if it costs a few lives, so what?" Chun-Li was extremely frustrated. His good intentions had backfired. Meanwhile, in Lark Manor, I was tasting the newly opened 1982 law fight with two sisters. If not for the dangers outside, life in this villa was like a paradise. Even Yang-Mi, who had always fantasized about leaving after the apocalypse, was gradually immersed in this bliss, unable to extricate herself. Just then, a scream from outside shattered the tranquility. I suddenly stood up, wondering if someone was attacking us. I immediately sensed something was off and headed towards the balcony on the second floor. Taking out my infrared binoculars, I scanned the villa's surroundings. I saw a large group of shadows converging on the villa. Their identities were clear to me. They must be the villagers from the Su clan across the river. Considering the incident happened just 2 days ago, only such rash people would rush over without investigation. I retrieved a sniper rifle from my alternate space. Since they were so eager to court death, I was ready to oblige. They came in such numbers, clearly with ill intent. Anyone disturbing my peaceful life deserved death. However, these ordinary people were not much of a threat. The only concern was their mutant villager. If he also came, I would seize the opportunity to eliminate him as well. I searched the crowd for that mutant, letting the rest test the power of my traps. Meanwhile, the Su family town's advance team had reached the edge of the traps. Looking at the brightly lit villa not far away, it felt like a dream. After the frozen apocalypse, they had survived on stored food and fishing. How could they imagine that just across the river, in the affluent area, someone was living such a lavish life? One villager, lost in thought, walked forward. Suddenly, with a scream, intense pain shot up from his foot. The group quickly looked and found he had stepped on a board, its dense, sharp nails piercing through his foot. In such freezing temperatures, such a wound could be fatal. The team leader urgently ordered him to be carried away, alerting others to beware of traps. The village chief, commanding from the rear, heard the news and immediately issued orders. It seemed the other party had prepared in advance, but this couldn't stump Su Dongsheng. He instructed, use branches and sticks to probe ahead and advance slowly. I watched all this from afar, amused at their cleverness. The show was just getting started. Indeed, they managed to clear quite a few nail traps, and soon they were slowly closing in. Seeing the village chief cleverly counter the first wave of traps, the villagers got encouraged, gradually letting their guard down. Just at that moment, someone felt a resistance near their foot, as if they had tripped over a rope. The next second, a fireball shot into the sky. A huge explosion echoed through the heavens, instantly blowing a dozen people away. The villagers retreated in fear, but some hadn't walked far when they suddenly felt intense pain in their chests and faces. Lifting their clothes, they found they had avoided the explosion, but not the flying shrapnel. The injured villagers panicked, falling to the ground, rolling around and screaming. The team became chaotic. Suddenly, another loud bang. Someone carelessly triggered a grenade trap. The villagers were terrified, frantically scrambling back, but the snowy ground still harbored many nail traps. In the darkness, everyone was in disarray, losing their sense of direction. The scene was filled with wails and was extremely bloody. After the first attack, the villagers suffered heavy casualties. Continuous nail traps and explosions turned the scene into a horrific spectacle. Some villagers began to retreat. They had never been so embarrassed in previous battles. Only then did the villagers realize the seriousness of the situation. They had to call Chun-Li. After all, Chun-Li, who could manipulate ice and snow, was like a human cheat code in these icy conditions. The villagers surrounded the village chief. Chief, quickly asked Chun-Li to help. We can't afford more casualties. face. Su Dongxing's expression turned grim. He thought about how Chun-Lei had warned him in the afternoon not to mess with Zhang Yi, and how he had scolded Chun-Lei for being cowardly. But now, the first wave of attack had left the villagers bewildered. Meanwhile, I was quietly observing all this with a sniper rifle in hand, wondering why the ice and snow mutant hadn't made a move yet. There were so many people, I couldn't tell which one was the mutant. The villagers were less than 200 meters from me. Killing them was as easy as flipping a hand. Even if that mutant hid and attacked from behind, as long as he was within 2,000 meters, I could still snipe him. Su Dongxing was caught between a rock and a hard place, but asking Chun-Lei for help was out of the question. He had already boasted in front of Chun-Lei, claiming he could take down Zhang Yi without his help. Moreover, asking a grandson for help was simply unthinkable for him. Su Dongxing steeled his heart and loudly scolded, "Do we really become useless without Chun-Lei, who hasn't set traps in the mountains when we were young? These child's play traps are only good for fooling wild boars. His house is just ahead. The monk may run, but the temple can't." Su Dongxing, for the sake of his own pride, chose to confront directly. He then handed a pair of binoculars to a villager. "Take a good look at that villa. See what's inside." Upon seeing the scene inside the villa, the villagers couldn't believe their eyes. The brightly lit house, the dining table laden with steaming delicacies, the luxurious furniture, and two fairy-like women leisurely enjoying their dinner. The villagers were tempted, but still apprehensive. After all, the snowy ground was full of traps. It still seemed better to call Chun-Lei. With Chun-Lei's abilities, just a slight effort would reveal all the traps in the snow. Hearing this, the village chief became furious. "You useless lot. It seems our village, except for Chun-Lei, is filled with cowards. If you're scared, then go back home now. Don't embarrass yourselves here." This reverse psychology worked wonders. The villagers' blood boiled, and they declared they were not cowards. They picked up their tools and continued clearing the traps. Seeing this, Su Dongxing nodded in satisfaction. "That's more like it. These child's play traps are nothing to be afraid of. With a bit of caution, they're harmless." After the village chief Su Dongxing's provocation, the villagers bravely continued to clear the traps. Learning from the first round of painful lessons, they quickly grew smarter. They started throwing snow blocks ahead from a distance, indeed triggering several traps. This boosted their confidence. Just 100 meters more, and all the food and beauties inside will be ours. Su Dongxing also showed a smug smile. "I told you these childish traps are nothing. Shotgun team, keep up. They must have noticed us. Chun-Lei said they have guns. If they dare to shoot, we'll return fire immediately." The chief's cousin, a retired soldier, volunteered eagerly. "If that guy shows his face, I'll blow his head off." I watched all this through the scope, thinking they weren't too stupid. This method of clearing traps indeed hadn't crossed my mind, but the real show was yet to come. Primitive methods can only clear primitive traps. The upcoming high-tech ones should give them a real challenge. Yanmi, having just finished eating, panicked upon seeing this situation. There are so many people. If they break in, we're done for. Shou Kir, on the other hand, was calm. "I wonder how many will die this time," she said, not forgetting to mock the terrified Yanmi. "Look at you, so cowardly. With that mouse-like courage, how will you ever follow our brother Zhang in the future?" The mountains of corpses and rivers of blood that Zhang Yi had created in the community to Shou Kir. All this was indeed a minor scene. As they entered my controllable distance, I immediately activated the villa's active noise cancellation feature. The noise outside seemed to vanish in an instant. Then, I decisively pressed the landmine activation button. A massive roar erupted in the middle of the road, and in the instant of the fiery explosion, the entire villa area was as bright as day. Though I couldn't hear the screams outside, I could clearly see the gruesome scene. Body parts and blood were scattered everywhere. Yang Mi instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Accustomed to a life of luxury, she had never seen such a scene, and started vomiting violently against the table. Even Shou Kir, who had seen much, turned away, unable to bear the sight. Seeing this, I felt no ripples in my heart. After all, they brought this upon themselves. The elders commanding from the rear were stunned, their minds blank. They couldn't accept the reality before them. How could this be? A young man, mentally unhinged by the blast, ran over, grabbing the village chief's leg. Shaking, he stuttered, "Third grandpa, everyone's dead, their bodies blown to pieces. Let's run away." The village chief, shocked by the scene, collapsed to the ground. "Is he a devil? We just wanted to rob his goods and wife. How could he kill hundreds of our Su family? So many dead." As the village chief and instigator, he knew he couldn't escape responsibility. Overwhelmed, he knelt in the snow, babbling incoherently. I watched all this from the shelter, certain the ice and snow mutant hadn't come. With no need to keep these brutes alive, I took out a compound bow. After donning my cold weather gear, I commanded the shelter's AI system, "Open the front window." As the command was issued, the large bulletproof glass window slowly lifted. I then placed 3 arrows on the string. After over 10 days of training, with the enhancement of my spatial ability, I had mastered shooting 3 arrows simultaneously. Standing in the darkness, I began a merciless hunt. As the arrows flew, 3 villagers were instantly pierced through the head. The already powerful modern compound bow, boosted by my ability, was even more lethal. The silent arrows reaped life after life. The panicked crowd didn't realize they were being hunted. Finally, someone noticed and shouted to the villagers, "There's a hunter." The villagers with shotguns hurriedly aimed, but in the darkness, they couldn't determine the direction. I, however, could aim precisely with my infrared tactical scope. Seeing someone with a gun, I mercilessly prioritized hunting them. The villagers couldn't understand. The shelter was nearly 200 meters away, the wind and snow so heavy. How could any bow shoot so far and with such power? Watching the villagers fall one by one, Su Dongxing was filled with regret. Recalling Chun-Lei's earlier advice, he realized how arrogant and conceited he had been. He raised his hand and fiercely slapped his own face. "I truly deserve to die. I have let down the ancestors of the Su family. I am the sinner of the Su family." I watched this through the scope, thinking if that's the case, I might as well grant him his wish. I drew the crossbow, ready to take him down, when suddenly a fierce snowstorm arose, quickly forming a tornado, blocking the path between the villagers and the shelter. I put away my bow and arrow, thinking, why come only now? As the ice and snow mutant finally decided to intervene, I immediately switched to a sniper rifle, knowing that in such a storm, arrows would be ineffective. As a mutant, Chun-Lei knew the gap between the villagers and Zhang Yi better than anyone. Hearing the huge explosion, the timid Chun-Lei gathered his courage and came over. He exerted all his strength to control the snow, blocking the shelter's line of sight, while shouting to the villagers, "Run, run, I can't hold this for long." In the shelter, seeing all this, I gave up shooting. With the view obstructed, blindly firing would only waste precious bullets, especially since there were only a few hundred boxes of ammunition left in the alternate space. Maintaining such a large-scale blizzard must be exhausting, and with about a kilometer to escape back across the river, I thought he couldn't hold on for long. Thinking this, I took various protective gear from the alternate space, then fully armed, I went downstairs to bid farewell to my two wives. "You two go take a bath. Wait for me to come back." Watching the decisive Zhang Yi, Yang Mi felt a strong sense of security. Meanwhile, Chun-Lei was still struggling to maintain the blizzard. Realizing the gunfire had stopped, he secretly rejoiced. As he stopped chasing, thinking his tactic worked, but then a loud roaring sound of an engine echoed. Everyone heard it, the sound of an engine. A snow SUV suddenly burst out from the snow. I engaged the auto-drive and took out an assault rifle for indiscriminate firing. The villagers screamed in terror. "Chun-Lei, he's coming. Use the blizzard to stop him." I looked in the direction of the voice, trying to spot the mutant among the crowd. Soon, a chubby figure caught my attention. While everyone was frantically running, only he occasionally turned back and gestured towards me. "It's you." With a loud bang, a bullet whizzed past Chun-Lei's ear, barely missing death. Chun-Lei, terrified, broke into a cold sweat. Then a makeshift sled rushed over. "Chun-Lei, get on." I sat in the car, pondering for 2 seconds, thinking this was the perfect opportunity to eliminate the opposing mutant. I had no reason to let him go. With this in mind, I once again revved up the engine and chased fiercely. If I killed this mutant, the other villagers would be like lambs to the slaughter. But Chun-Lei still maintained the blizzard around them, especially around himself, blocking it tightly. However, he only managed to visually impair my attack. The range of the blizzard was limited, unable to protect everyone. With that, I simply turned my gun and started shooting the panicking villagers. Watching the villagers fall one by one, Chun-Lei was in immense pain, but he was powerless to save everyone while protecting himself. I watched this scene with a sinister smile, wanting to see whether he valued his own life or his villagers more. In my relentless pursuit, the villagers' dog sled stood no chance against my luxury snow SUV, especially since they were dragging the bodies of their kin, intending to bury them properly, which slowed them down considerably. It was then that Chun-Lei realized the problem and urgently told the villagers to discard the bodies. Reluctantly, they did so, as burying the dead properly was of great importance to them, but they had no choice in this dire situation. These bodies slightly hindered my chase, but it wasn't a big problem. The auto-drive's obstacle avoidance was quite strong, only slightly affecting my aim. Still, my shots were almost always on target, and the military sniper rifle, enhanced by my abilities, was extremely powerful, capable of penetrating 2 heads with a single bullet. Watching the villagers fall, Chun-Lei was in agony. Everyone looked at him with pleading and hopeful eyes, now depending solely on him. "Chun-Lei, think of something." In a moment of near despair, Chun-Lei had a flash of inspiration. Opening his right hand, a blue light shone from his eyes and palm. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the ice right in front of my chase path. Under Chun-Lei's continued effort, the crack widened, forcing me to temporarily halt my pursuit. Leaning out of the car window, I saw the crack extending for dozens of meters, effectively blocking my path. Standing on the car roof, I felt a chill thinking of the mutant's power to crack such thick ice. Fortunately, his ability didn't seem strong enough to completely break it open, or I might have ended up in the river with my car. I randomly fired a few more shots, killing a few more villagers until the crowd disappeared from my scope. I sighed deeply, realizing that fighting him on ice in the future was not an option. An ability to control ice and snow in this ice age was unimaginable. I had to use the alternate space to right the snowmobile and return to the shelter. The traps were mostly destroyed and needed reinstalling, but it wasn't a big loss, considering the number of invaders killed. Back home, Yang Mi was still weak from the gruesome scene, having vomited her meal. Shou Kier asked with concern, "Did you get rid of that mutant sitting on the sofa?" I replied nonchalantly, "That guy was too sneaky. I barely saw his figure. His ability is disgusting for escaping. Killing him is not easy. But mainly, I was too cautious, letting him slip away." At that moment, Yang Mi asked with a weak voice, "Zhang Yi, aren't we being too cruel? After all, killing is a crime. Aren't you afraid of being held accountable after the apocalypse?" I touched Yang Mi's cheek noncommittally. "What do you think?" Meanwhile, having just returned home, I also felt a bit hungry, so I asked Shou Kier to prepare some food, specifically asking for pit brain, duck gizzards, and large intestines. Hearing these dish names and recalling the bloody scene, Yang Mi began to vomit uncontrollably again. I teased her, "Are you too weak? Do you want some nutritious food tonight to replenish your body?" After the chaotic return to their village, everyone was terrified. They had expected the heroes to return laden with spoils, but the reality was a disheveled retreat, with nearly half the people missing. There were cries of despair everywhere. Some were searching for their husbands, others for their sons. Both survivors and the bereaved were in profound grief. Chun-Lei, not knowing what to do, stood in the snowstorm. He had warned them beforehand. Then, his cousin grabbed Chun-Lei's arm, urgently shouting, "Quick, check on third grandpa. He looks like he can't hold on. He wants to see you." Hearing that Su Dongshan, his third grandpa, was in bad shape, Chun-Lei's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately ran towards his house. At Su Dongshan's door, it was crowded with people. All the villagers looked at Chun-Lei with complex eyes. Although the survivors knew Chun-Lei had saved them, others did not share the sentiment. Their faces showed no gratitude, but rather blame and even disgust. A woman, wiping her tears, said bitterly, "Of all the Su family, only you are lucky, possessing extraordinary powers. But why didn't you go at the start? You caused my son's death." Some even cursed him openly. "You coward, give me back my husband's life." Chun-Lei helplessly replied in a low voice, "I didn't ask them to go. They didn't listen to my advice and insisted on going." This response only angered the villagers more, as they pointed fingers at him and accused, "You coward, if you had charged in at the beginning, using your special abilities, we wouldn't have been bombed to death." Chun-Lei was furious, but he was used to being timid in the village and didn't dare to retort in front of the family elders. Then, a scholarly elder came out of the house and said, "Let's say a few words less. This isn't Chunlei's fault. Come in, the elder is calling for you." At this moment, Su Dongxing was lying on the bed, barely clinging to life. Seeing Chunlei arrive, he spoke with a face full of guilt. "It's all my fault. If I had listened to your advice, so many of our Su family members wouldn't have died. I've really become senile. Now I understand that our village was able to stand firm after the snow disaster entirely because of your abilities." Su Dongxing had an epiphany, but it was too late. He held Chunlei's hand and said, "I've explained to the others in the family. This operation was entirely my responsibility. Let them blame me." "This old man, I know the villagers are saying things about you, but I hope you won't hold it against them. Our Su family can't afford to fight among ourselves. We can't break the lineage of the Su family." As Su Dongxing spoke, tears streamed down his face. "So, I only ask one thing of you before I go. Protect the Su family well." Chunlei, tears in his eyes, nodded repeatedly. "After I'm gone, I entrust the Su family to you. That's it. I need to rest for a while. You can go out." With that, Su Dongxing passed away. Chunlei quickly called the people waiting outside. Seeing Su Dongxing with his eyes closed, the Su family members immediately burst into tears. Noticing no one paid attention to him, Chunlei quietly left the house. After receiving his third grandpa's last request, Chunlei walked back with a strange feeling in his heart. He knew that if Zhang Yi really came to kill them, he had no choice but to flee. He thought he was the chosen one, only to find out he was just cannon fodder. Just as he dejectedly reached his home, he saw a young woman waiting at his doorstep. Seeing Chunlei, the girl quickly approached him. "Are you brother Chunlei?" Chunlei's face turned red, and he stammered, "Yes, that's me. Who are you?" The girl's eyes were filled with gratitude. "I'm Su Lily. I came to thank you for saving my father. He told me that you risked your life to save him today." Chunlei, not knowing what to do, scratched the back of his head. "It's nothing. It's what I should do." It was then that Chunlei realized he was not a sinner, but a hero of the village. Su Lily said shyly, looking down, "My father is still injured and couldn't come himself, so he asked me to thank you in person, but we didn't have anything to bring as a gift, so I came empty-handed." Chunlei waved his hands shyly. "Don't be so formal. We are all part of the Su family. I'll definitely help if I can." After a few moments of small talk, Su Lily turned and disappeared into the snow. At that moment, Chunlei was still unable to calm down, his heart racing uncontrollably. He felt that he had deeply fallen in love with Su Lily, even thinking of names for their future children. This otaku, who had sworn never to fall for a three-dimensional woman, had so easily betrayed his own belief. Chunlei, with a determined look, clenched his fists, resolving to protect the Su family villagers and provide a stable environment for Su Lily and their future child. Back home, Chunlei had to think of a strategy. Two encounters with Zhang Yi had made him acutely aware of Zhang Yi's terrifying nature. However, he had promised third grandpa to protect the village, and now, with love in his life, he couldn't let that demon ruin his happiness. But he feared Zhang Yi might come in a fit of rage to annihilate the village. How should he handle this? A direct confrontation would surely result in his instant defeat. After much thought, he concluded that there was only one way to resolve this situation definitively: negotiation. Excited by this idea, although risky, he was ready to risk it all for the Su family and his beloved Su Lily. He hurriedly started searching for Zhang Yi's contact information on his computer, fantasizing that Su Lily must like him as he had saved her father's life. According to TV drama plots, she must have a secret crush on him. The next morning, I cautiously stepped out, fixing the damage traps, thinking the Su family was unlikely to dare another attack. Still, I prepared for a potential second wave of enemies. Ordinary people posed almost no threat to my shelter, but I had to be wary of awakened mutants. Thinking about the ice and snow mutant, I still harbored a bit of admiration for him, as his style was somewhat similar to mine, both very cautious about our lives. However, since I couldn't use him for my own purposes, I had to eliminate him beforehand. Shokir has been wholeheartedly devoted to me for a long time, and Yangmi, after the Su family town battle, lost her hope for the apocalypse's end. She used to believe the snow disaster was temporary, and the world would return to its former state, where she would be a dazzling star again. However, witnessing the brutal deaths of over 100 people shook her belief. She chose to rely on me, not superficially, but genuinely wanting to be close. Just then, a phone call suddenly came in, startling me. Instantly, I thought of Lu Fengda and how my biggest secret had been exposed. Who could be contacting me now? But this time, I was much more composed as I answered the phone. Before I could speak, an excited voice came through. "Hello, Zhang Yi. This is Chunlei from Su Family Town. Do you have a moment? I have something to discuss with you." Hearing it was someone from Su Family Town, I instantly became alert. After yesterday's attack, I had no good feelings towards their village and was planning when to annihilate them. Chunlei continued, "I was wondering if we could reconcile and avoid troubling each other in the future." Hearing this, I laughed. "I never troubled you. It was always you who provoked me." "What? Now you realize you can't beat me and want to make peace? You're quite optimistic." On the other end of the phone, Chunlei immediately became nervous. He was already very fearful in his heart. After two encounters, he had come to view the other party as a powerful and deadly figure. He then spoke in a trembling and submissive voice. "I called you this time to apologize. All this is our village's fault. Could you please spare our simple villagers? Considering we haven't caused you any harm and have suffered heavy losses ourselves, you can set any conditions, and as long as we can meet them, we will." I found the other party's overly respectful tone strange and wondered why they sent such a weakling for negotiations. It sounded like a rookie just entering society. I then asked loudly, "First weigh yourself. Do you even have the right to represent Su Family Town?" Chunlei then revealed his identity. "Actually, I am the mutant who has clashed with you twice." Hearing this, I immediately became serious. "So it's you?" "Yes, it's me. Do you think I'm qualified now?" I thought, if it's him, he indeed has the right to negotiate, being the only person I'm wary of. My tone instantly became more amicable. "You just said that as long as I agree to reconcile, you can fulfill any of my requests, right?" Chunlei, sensing a chance, responded with a silly smile. "As long as our village can do it, we will try our best to satisfy you." After this battle, Chunlei was almost certain that I must be holding a large amount of supplies from the Walmart warehouse. He figured the village's offerings wouldn't interest interest me. I also sensed that this chubby guy was not stupid. His ice and snow abilities were a powerful weapon in this frozen apocalypse. If I could recruit him, he would be very useful. I then said seriously, I only want one thing from you, that's you, Chun-Lei. Startled, Chun-Lei yelped in fear. I'm straight. Don't be like this. I was speechless, while Zhou Kir and Yang Mi laughed nearby. Don't misunderstand. I just find your ice and snow abilities unique. If you're sincere about making peace, come to my shelter in person, I added with emphasis. Otherwise, if I'm in a bad mood one day, I might just wipe out your village. You should know that your abilities are completely ineffective against me. Destroying your village would be as easy as flipping my hand. Chun-Lei, terrified, stood up from his chair, his whole body trembling. Don't be hasty. Wiping out our village wouldn't benefit you, right? Moreover, our village and your villa area are interdependent. If there's an external enemy in the future, we can help each other. I disdainfully replied, don't talk to me about enemies. Aren't you my biggest enemy right now? If you can win, you rob me of my supplies and wife. If you can't, you come seeking peace. Your calculations are so loud, I can hear them from my house. If you want to make peace, show your sincerity. What do you mean by calling me? Are you just informing me? If you're serious about making peace, come to my shelter at 2:30 p.m. Only you, Chun-Lei, need to come. From the conversation, I got a grasp of this chubby guy's character, probably a timid, weak, and cowardly otaku, clearly not a shrewd and strong person, so I directly forced him to make a choice. Whether you come or not is up to you. If you don't, I'll find time to come over and wipe out your village. Hearing this, Chun-Lei was immediately terrified, losing all rhythm in the negotiation. The horror in his heart was magnified, and the scene of yesterday's massacre resurfaced in his mind. He blurted out tremblingly, okay, I'll go. After saying this, I hung up the phone directly, not giving Chun-Lei a chance to back out. Chun-Lei was stunned and collapsed to the ground, his legs giving way. This is it. Going there is almost certain death. My pure love, my life of cheats. Is it all going to end here? After hanging up, I also became serious, starting to plan the afternoon meeting. This guy's abilities indeed had limitless potential and could be a huge threat, but if he could become my subordinate, that would be a good choice. I decided to test him in the afternoon. After all, his abilities posed no threat to me. I would decide then whether to kill him or not. After my rest, I went to the balcony, fully armed, waiting for this chubby guy with my sniper rifle. Soon, a figure appeared in my scope, the portly figure I recognized from last night's tactical sight. My aim was already locked on his head. The moment he entered my shooting range, I could blow his brains out, but before he had walked a few steps, the chubby guy slipped and fell, making me burst into laughter. Is this the powerful ice and snow mutant, the one with limitless potential? But I couldn't let my guard down and continued to watch him. Just as he got up, he fell again. It seemed he was really scared stiff. Seeing he posed no threat, I relaxed and prepared to meet this interesting mutant downstairs. Chun-Lei then called, your house is surrounded by traps. I dare not come. No need for you to come, I said, and before the words had even faded, I appeared right in front of Chun-Lei. Upon seeing me, Chun-Lei's legs went weak. Are you Zhang Yi? He hadn't expected the fearsome killer he imagined to look like a scholarly person. Gathering his courage, Chun-Lei said, I've complied with your request and came alone. That should show enough sincerity, right? Let's not fight anymore. This was a meaningless battle to begin with. Hearing this, I laughed. You initiated the attack and now you're seeking peace, and you say it's meaningless. Do you really mean that? Chun-Lei awkwardly touched the back of his head and said with a silly smile, indeed, it's our village's fault. So, what conditions do you want for making peace? I want to know, what can you offer to earn my forgiveness? Chun-Lei sheepishly replied, except for the lives of our Sioux family members, you can ask for anything. I thought to myself that I lacked nothing in terms of supplies, and there was nothing in their village that I wanted, but I still needed to assert my authority. Hand over the initiator of this attack. That person must die, otherwise, there's no deal. To my surprise, Chun-Lei became excited. The initiator of the attack was our village chief, and he's already been scared to death by you. Are you satisfied now? I was somewhat speechless. I killed over 100 people yesterday. Were any of them your relatives? Don't you want to avenge them? Chun-Lei then spoke with a tinge of sadness. My parents died soon after the snow disaster. My dad had a heart condition and fell ill on the first day of the snowstorm. There were no ambulances due to the heavy snow, and he died at home. My mom passed away in bed a week later, and the others, they are not my direct relatives. They generally look down on me. In their eyes, I'm just a useless person who plays games at home all day. So, I don't really have feelings for other Sioux family members. That's why I don't hold a grudge against you for killing hundreds of Sioux family people. On the contrary, I kind of admire you. The way you chased us in your car last night was really cool. Having heard this, I decided to give this chubby guy a chance. I can agree to make peace, but I'm not interested in your village. Those villagers pose no threat to me. However, you, the chubby guy, are somewhat interesting. For your sake, I can spare your village. Chun-Lei immediately became incredibly excited, rushing over to hug me, as being acknowledged by someone as powerful as me was a huge honor for him. I repeatedly waved my hands to stop him. Don't get excited. I have conditions. From now on, you have to follow my orders and comply with any of my requests. Hearing this condition, Chun-Lei was terrified. What if you covet my body? I was speechless at his reaction. Seeing Chun-Lei hesitating, I pulled out my trump card, directly taking out a limited edition figurine from the alternate space. Here, this is for you. Working for me won't leave you shortchanged. Chun-Lei's eyes lit up immediately. Such a rare figurine was almost irresistible to an old otaku like him. I have many more of these. As long as you follow me loyally, you'll have enough limited edition figurines, body pillows, games, and cartridges. Chun-Lei, blissfully hugging the figurine, nodded repeatedly. Okay, whatever you want. And just like that, I successfully recruited Chun-Lei as my subordinate. I also had a natural liking for this chubby guy. Being with a straightforward, heartless fat guy always gave a sense of reliability, but most importantly, I valued his ice and snow abilities. In this Ice Age apocalypse, his potential was limitless. Since you're here, help me with something, I said. Chun-Lei perked up, thinking, so quickly a task. It feels good to be valued. I then took out a snow SUV from the alternate space. Chun-Lei was stunned and, in his surprise, began to flatter earnestly. Time does not exist. Space is king. Brother Zhang's abilities are surely invincible globally. This made me inadvertently think of something. When I was on the brink of death, I returned to a month earlier. Wasn't that time travel? Maybe I had an unexplored time travel ability related to my spatial abilities. After driving for a while, we arrived in front of a large building, originally a major gas station. The shelter consumed several times more energy than a safe house, so I needed to stock up in advance. After confirming the location, I instructed Chun-Lei, clear all this snow. Eager to prove himself, Chun-Lei used all his strength. With a loud bang, the thick snow cracked open. The snow in front of us started to shake violently, and then huge chunks of ice and snow rose into the air before being tossed to the sides. At first, Chun-Lei seemed relaxed, but gradually he started to struggle. I observed Chun-Lei from behind. Although he had become my capable subordinate, I still needed to understand his skills, as it's always wise to be cautious of others. Soon after, the deeply buried gas station was cleared out. Chun-Lei, gasping for air, collapsed on the ground. I was secretly thrilled inside. With Chun-Lei, a top-tier tool person, gathering resources in the future would be much easier. I handed him a piece of chocolate, and seeing the chocolate bar, Chun-Lei's eyes lit up. He tore open the wrapper and started munching on it eagerly. Meanwhile, I quickly slid into the freshly cleared snow pit, planning to take all the stored oil into my possession. After the job was done, Chun-Lei started flattering me again. Brother Zhang, you are truly amazing. I felt a bit embarrassed hearing this because, after all, the main work was done by this chubby guy. I merely stretched out my hand to put the oil cans into the alternate space. I pulled up Chun-Lei and asked, haven't you tried using your abilities to dig up resources before? Of course, I have, but in this extreme cold weather, we can't go far. Our dogs aren't purebred Siberian Huskies either, so we can only dig up some resources nearby. But for us, that's already enough. There's no need to risk our lives going further away. I looked at Chun-Lei as if he were a treasure. This is truly a top-tier tool person. With you following me, these issues are no problem. You just stick with me, and I'll make sure you live well. I then pulled out a backpack. Here, take these supplies as a reward for today. Chun-Lei, holding the heavy backpack, was overjoyed and his eyes welled up with tears. Brother Zhang, just give the word for any task. If I hesitate even for a second, I don't deserve the Su surname. After saying this, I prepared to drive back. On the way, I casually asked Chun-Lei about his process of awakening his abilities. To my surprise, as soon as I asked, Chun-Lei's face turned red as if it was something unspeakable. He stammered, after my parents passed away, I didn't feel like living either, but I didn't have the courage to commit suicide, so I just lay in bed, ready to starve myself to death. Did you awaken your abilities when you were about to starve to death? Chun-Lei's face turned even redder. I was lying there and found the bed quite comfortable. Then I thought, since I'm ending my life anyway, why not enjoy myself one last time? A friend once told me excessive rewards harm the body, but I thought, since I'm not going to live, why care about the harm? So I unrestrainedly indulged myself. How many times? Chun-Lei's face almost buried under the car seat. I've forgotten the exact number, maybe around 20-something times. In the end, I almost lost consciousness. However, after losing consciousness, my body mysteriously underwent a strange transformation. I covered my face, unable to look directly at this chubby guy. So, that's how he awakened his ice and snow abilities. Truly bizarre. I dropped Chun-Lei off by the river. It's only a few hundred meters away from their village. Chun-Lei, puzzled, asked me, Brother Zhang, can you take me across the river? With this weather and my physique, walking back is quite tough. It's just a press of the gas pedal for you. Hearing this, I smiled deeply. My car tends to slip on the river surface, so I won't go over. In my mind, once across the river, it's Chun-Lei's home turf. Although he seems to have surrendered to me on the surface, I still need to be extra cautious. His control of the ice last night, trapping my car on the river, made me wary. Chun-Lei found the slipping excuse far-fetched. Last night, when Zhang Yi was chasing us in his car with a sniper rifle, he looked pretty cool. But now, as my diehard fan, he thought my concerns were not unreasonable, so he didn't question it further and obediently unbuckled his seatbelt to get out of the car. Before he left, I called out to him, Chun-Lei, there's something you need to be careful about. Hearing his name called directly, Chun-Lei felt a sense of closeness. I patted his shoulder and spoke earnestly. In this apocalyptic world, danger lurks everywhere. Your Su family town is known in the city for its vegetables and food. I guess it's inevitable that you'll attract attention, so you must be extra vigilant. After thanking me, Chun-Lei got out of the car and walked towards the village. My kind reminder to Chun-Lei obviously had a deeper purpose. I'm not so kind-hearted to care about the lives and deaths of the Su family. However, my shelter and Su family town are interdependent, so it doesn't hurt to make them more cautious. By instilling this idea in him, any stranger appearing nearby would be treated as a potential enemy by him, adding an extra layer of natural protection to my shelter. Upon returning to the village, Chun-Lei, excited, ran to report the good news to the current village chief, expecting praise from Su Dongtang. However, he was met with a harsh scolding instead. This reaction clearly doused him in cold water. Chun-Lei, puzzled, said, Sixth Grandpa, I did this to protect our village from being attacked. After all, Zhang Yi is so strong, we have no power to resist. Su Dongtang sneered, if you hadn't played the coward yesterday, we wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. Your third grandpa died because of you. Now you're making decisions on your own to negotiate peace. You've truly lost the face of our Su family ancestors. Chun-Lei was momentarily unable to retort, feeling incredibly disheartened. But I promised third grandpa to protect Su family town. We really can't fight against Zhang Yi. There's no choice but to seek peace. To his surprise, Su Dongtang suddenly scolded him harshly, slamming his hand on the table to interrupt Chun-Lei. Who is the clan leader? You or me? You think you're smart. From now on, all actions must be reported to me first. You can't make decisions on your own. Chun-Lei was reprimanded like a cat that had done something wrong, but he had just thought of himself as a meritorious figure. In the midst of self-doubt, Su Dongtang suddenly came over, patted Chun-Lei's shoulder, and said solemnly, Sixth Grandpa knows you have no ill intentions, but you're still too young. Many things lack thorough consideration. This time, it's because of you that Su family suffered heavy losses. If I hadn't spoken up for you in front of the clan, you would have been driven out of the village by now. Staying in the village now is also to atone for your sins, so you must obediently follow my orders from now on. Su Dongtang emphasized this last part. Chun-Lei shuddered, repeatedly assuring that he understood. Su Dongtang then showed a satisfied expression. You can go go back now. Remember, never act on your own again. Watching Chun-Lei walk away, Su Dongtang adjusted his glasses, thinking to himself, young people are so arrogant and presumptuous. They shouldn't think they can disregard their elders just because they've gained some skills. He then took out his phone and sent messages to various branches of the clan, taking all the credit for negotiating peace with Zhang Yi. The branches, who had been worried about Zhang Yi attacking, were finally relieved. They unanimously praised Su Dongtang's capability, even saying that they should have supported 6th Grandpa as the clan leader earlier to avoid 3rd Grandpa's foolish mistakes. They lamented that hundreds had to die to accompany that old man in his errors, praising 6th Grandpa for his foresight and wisdom. Su Dongtang felt greatly satisfied inside, muttering to himself, this good-for-nothing who hides at home playing games